All right. I'm guessing Kurt's
Okay.
is not talking.
And now we're live. And then I click. It's crazy to do this on a phone.
Advance philosophy memes. We make good memes. Advanced philosophy memes. Based fucking memes. Advanced philosophy memes. We make good memes. Advanced philosophy memes. Based fucking memes. Shoutouts to reckonings, Deacon, Boy Scott, Pedro, and everyone else that engages on my posts. And Sarah, keep it up, man. You'll get there someday. And everyone else for great memes. Philosophy memes. Advanced philosophy memes. Based fucking memes.
All right.
Hi, Pete.
Well, yeah, should go like this. There you go. Hey, everybody. The power's out where I live. How are you guys doing?
I,
man.
you still have a lot of power there. There's the sun right behind
Yeah,
you.
I'm pretty powerful, but I don't know when the power will be back on. So, you know, American Time Machine, you can kind of like lead if I pass out or if I like fade out. Terrorist, you can prod with questions. Jack, you can make sure that the car is safe.
I will do that.
I'm a question guy.
Well, I like being outside. I should do way more shows outside. This isn't bad at all. This is good. This is like, I love it. I'm kind of
Yeah, you see that
overwhelmed.
sunlight.
Like, I didn't even think about how I could be outside.
Yeah, there's whole new possibilities now.
Okay. How's everybody doing?
Good, man.
Good. How's everybody sound? How do I sound? I'm in the back room right now. I'm trying to get some stuff adjusted and whatnot, but I should be on.
Look at this mother trucking guy over here. Yeah, so I was
I'm
just
gonna
I
find
just
someone I can
finished up-
mount my camera with. You guys keep talking.
All right, I just finished up that fucking Billy Carson thing with Joe Rogan. I mean, I was wondering when Billy Carson would show up, I guess, because he's been going through like a cannonball run of sorts with like all the different podcasts and YouTube channels. And I don't know, I feel like there's maybe it's just this new age thing that's like getting big again. Everyone's into, even the layman, I call it like layman's metaphysics, which I totally like subscribe to.
Yeah, that sounds
Yeah, I
like
didn't see-
there's a pretty big push for it. I see what you're saying. You know, there's like the Billy Carson, there's this Terrence guy coming out of nowhere. I didn't know who Billy was until you were telling me about him. Like, and what's weird is he looks strangely familiar, though. I don't know why he looks familiar. Maybe I've seen him before in the past, but like, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, maybe it's deja vu. Maybe he just came out of nowhere. So it seems like he just came out of nowhere. You said that you can't even find him on Wikipedia, though. That's
Well,
what
I found out why. I did some research. I found out that he changed his name, and he's like I'm pretty sure he's a grifter. He was super into like neuroscience and business. So he's like a salesman, a psychological salesman, I guess. So he's definitely like a grifter or some shit. Just a really good one.
Dude, he sounds too legit, too serious, dude. It sounds too plausible. when he was not on Rogan, he actually seemed to go light on Rogan. Like Rogan was like for normies compared to who was the like ex-military guy that you pointed me out to.
Sean Ryan.
Yeah, Sean Ryan. That interview, it went. I don't know. Maybe it was like the mood I was in. The mood I was in that day. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it seemed like the Sean Ryan interview went about 5 times harder. It had like such more serious tone, and the dude was just dropping bombs after bombs after bombs. Him and Rogan instead seemed to be like, I don't know, just like connecting and just kind of ripping back and forth and having fun and being friends or whatever. But on the Sean Ryan thing, he was just like, bro, check out this shit. It was intense.
Yeah, on Flagrant, on that other, I forgot what's that guy's name with the bad haircut, but he's got a pretty big podcast. And when Billy Carson was on that, this guy's a comedian, so he was just like roasting Billy Carson, but even him, he was like, there was some points of the interview where
Like
he
the
was
mullet comedian guy with kind of like bad
Yeah.
skin. I know exactly what you mean.
I don't know, but I know he was on Joe Rogan too. He's got like a mustache. It's the show's called Flagrant.
Yeah, the mustache kind of hillbilly-ish guy, but he's like a clean hillbilly.
Yeah, kind of like a Guido. I think he's Jewish actually. I don't know. He's definitely against Kanye West for being anti-Semitic, so that's what made me guess that.
I think I know who you're talking about, but like I could totally be imagining a different dude.
Yeah. Hold on. I'm gonna try to find out this guy's name.
Since Andre is outside, we'll have to figure it out ourselves.
It's Andreas.
Yeah, this is good. This is
sorry.
interesting, man. I like it. I could just mute myself half the time and stare at you. Like I might get some shoes on though, because I haven't dusted my deck in a while. I do have this really cool, like, I don't know if you can see it. I have like an incline chair,
Yeah.
like so I can. Oh, there's spider webs. That's okay. Whoa. See, that's pretty sweet. I could be on an incline chair while we talk.
That's pretty cool.
Hey, girl.
Man, you might become like you might
Why have I
become
not
new
been doing
age
this my whole
yourself.
life? Oh, this is great. The coolest thing is like because I'm
There you
like
go.
on a like it's all dark, like I could fall to my death. It's great. You know what I mean? I won't. I love this place.
It's cool how there's so many things like getting in the way of meeting up tonight, but we somehow managed to pull through.
Oh, dude, it's unreal. I shouldn't even be awake right now. I couldn't sleep, right? And when I can't sleep, I have this strange thing that happens where I can't sleep because I couldn't sleep, and then it's like this snowball. Yeah, exactly. It's like this snowball effect, and because I didn't sleep when it was available, then suddenly now that I can sleep way later, it's impossible. And then I get like a burst of energy, satanic energy, and here we are. So I kind of lost my train of thought there, but let's just say that the odds were stacked against me getting here. I almost didn't even join because I was so tired.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny because I keep thinking to myself, I'm exhausted, and that makes me have more energy. When the power went out, all of a sudden my headache went away. No, I'm not talking about any 5G because I'm pretty sure this is 5G right now. But like, I don't know, my dad's
Bro, that
walking
sounds like
around
6G.
reading the newspapers instead of watching TV. It's probably some good things when the power goes out. Feels good.
That sounds like some of that 666G.
Yeah.
If you ask me.
I do have Wi-Fi 6. I'm thinking about getting 7 Wi-Fi 7. So I'm a big fan of technology. I can't help myself. I grew up in Silicon Valley, just like dreaming of having more lanes of like radio traffic. I remember the first time I had the airport, the Apple airport, and it was like my mom had a MacBook PowerBook G3 IBM processor with a DVD drive, and I could watch movies. So I put in the first DVD I saw was You've Got Mail. And I could I could stream it or something. I forget what I did, but using the AirPod, I think I made like a codec rip of it. Like was like one of the first things I could learn to do. And I ripped all the audio files, and there were like director's commentaries. So I got to see the lady talking the whole time through her own movie, which was like, I don't know, that definitely did things to me. But like Wi-Fi, bro, I love
I think
Wi-Fi.
the first movie I ever saw commentary for was I'm pretty sure it was Fight Club.
Oh, nice.
Like,
I don't know if
the
I
D-
saw. Yeah, I did, because they talk about it in the movie, that in the DVD commentary, that how they had to get the writer at the like, there was like a funeral, that somebody at someone's funeral they pitched the work of Chuck's, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
And,
remember the Donnie
yeah.
Darko one. I miss director's commentaries. I love those. Those were great.
Yeah, it
we
was definitely
lose,
like it was like
Lost a buddy.
nah, he'll be back. He'll be back on, I'm sure. Oh
First
man,
rule
fucking
is good.
commentaries.
Always stay
This is
with
great.
your buddy.
What were you saying, Kurt?
First, okay, not the first rule, but one of the first rules of scuba is to always stick with your buddy. Never lose your buddy. Stay with your buddy. That's a good rule to follow.
Yeah.
That's right.
I wish
I
I
don't
could
know
hear you
what
guys
you're
on my
talking about.
speaker.
Because I got kicked out, but whatever you just said sounded good.
Well,
Sounded like a good thing.
How about all these trials in the world? Get these court trials.
Like,
They're pretty crazy, huh?
I don't know. I mean, it would be fun if
like
you had
trials
Fallon
and
for president.
tribulations.
Yeah, just do.
I think he means like Donald Trump's like court case or whatever, how he was convicted of all those crimes and now he's
Oh yeah,
yeah.
that was one of the most serious things I've ever seen in all of the time that I've ever looked at the circus. That that was serious. That was some serious circus going on there.
Was it more serious than January 6th when someone broke into the
Bro,
White House?
I thought I would be mad. I thought that I'd be mad. I thought that I'd be like wanting to get out in the street or something and be like, the end is nigh, with the sign and stuff. But when it happened, it's weird, dude. Like the temperature just broke and I just fucking laughed. I just laughed. And I laughed. I wasn't mad at all. I realized in that moment that I'm not going to go too deeply into it, but everything is going to be just fine.
Yeah.
Everything it was so ridiculous. It's so over the top to me. I don't know how everybody feels about him as a president, as a person or whatever, but I think we're all on the same page that it's super serious.
I'm with you on there, buddy.
I think everyone
It's definitely
feels
super
like
serious.
All right, now does my audio sound as bad as I bet it does?
I
Is it
think
like really
everyone's
weird?
exhausted of political
Yes.
data at this point. It doesn't matter what we support. It's just like we're constantly getting blasted with this information of like, oh, look at this slinging, look at this missing, look at all
Bro,
this
I'm sorry.
It's hard
To me, you sound like Super Robotroid. I can't understand you at all.
I'm so grateful because I thought it was my fault. I was worried.
My cord.
No, yeah, Kurt's kind of breaking up there.
Kurt, you got to get a new cable, man. Like,
think
did
it
I
might
not
be
say?
internet. I might have gone over my limit. 1 second.
Oh, you're sounding okay.
So I'm not
now.
convinced. I think he's like a computer program. I don't think he's a real person right now.
I'm pretty convinced Kurt's part machine. Like, I think we're
I think
probably
it's
related.
breaking down, dude. Like it needs updates.
Check one.
Check 1 2, baby.
Dude, Czechoslovakia,
Sure.
1, 2, 3.
Well,
Mm.
lately, I've been hearing a lot of stuff about energy-directed weapons or like active denial systems. Like
Connor
these
gets it.
things, they just like broadcast waves of energy and sound at you, and it fucks you up, makes you feel nauseous, makes you feel agitated. They could put voices in your head using this thing, and apparently, like the range as we know it, as the public knows it, it's like 7 football fields. But in reality, that shit could be directed like anywhere in the world from
Oh, yeah.
7 Earth ball fields, baby.
I mean, yeah, the joke about that is like waves don't necessarily degrade. Like things can absorb waves, but a lot of times, especially with the kind of like the plasticness of our society, things really do bounce. And we have oiled asphalt. So if you ever did a study on how radio waves bounce on asphalt, it's incredible. You can actually get pretty similar sound distance across an asphalt plane as you can from water. I did a test in like a speed of sound like science fair thing at one point, and you can tell. You'd think that it would be a lot worse across a road, but in a dirt road you would be correct. But in an asphalt circumstance, actually, like the lapidity of the oils affect the speed of sound that it bounces across, which is pretty crazy.
Wait, what's this lapidity again? What does that mean?
Which one? Lapidity? That's like the oil,
Yeah.
the oils, the fatty oils, which is what the plastic is. Yeah, like plastic's made of oil, and so the oil in the asphalt. People don't think about all the things that are plastic, or like like plastic, fat, and oil are like a holy trinity.
Oh, like lipids, fats, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Got to keep shit lubricated, you know.
Poor Kurt. This is great. We're gonna be just like popping back and forth, like hoping that the internet doesn't stop us. I can hear you now because of my great Bose. It's not sponsored by Bose yet, but someday.
Hey, maybe you should check out these Raycons.
Dude, I almost did.
You people at home.
I do love internet commentary etiquette, and so when Eric started talking about demonstrating with his amazing advertisement, like soap opera series he did. Did you see that?
No, I did not.
Not at all.
Oh my god! The only reason I know about Raycon because he did this great thing, which was like, Emily, where are you, Emily? And then like Emily's dead, but here's the will, and he wants to find out like if he's gonna get what he's gonna get in the will. And he's like, brother, did you leave your Raycons for me? It's like pretty great, actually.
I wonder, yo, Andreas,
Hey,
did you ever like function as a dungeon master for a D&D campaign?
In my life, I've like dabbled with that. I've never been like what you would like. I know some professional ones, and so I wouldn't consider myself a professional dungeon master. But I do dabble. I've tried several times to start games, and yeah, I know about it a decent amount now, more probably than I did at the time. But why?
I feel like you'd be good at it. You know, you could probably weave a pretty cool and engaging story. I don't know how these things work in terms of like broadcasting it on the internet, but I heard it can be done. But I don't know. It was just.
I've had some ideas. So I know some friends who are working on a DM app, like an AI DM app, and I've done some recently where I've played with ChatGPT and Gemini and several things as DMs for games I've set up, and made games for people and for kids too. Like Brittany's kids, I set up 2 DM'd AI games based on their interests and things like that. So I know how it works a decent amount, and I have some ideas for a game I want to do. And the thing about that is like it makes sense to me to turn it into a video game because most of the time every good video game that costs a lot of money, like they make it in a board game first. Like Grand Theft Auto GTA was a board game. They had to make Halo essentially like that. Every game that you go through, you have to learn the risks and values. RPGs like Blizzard makes or Ubisoft or whatever, they're all based on first to physical. So it makes sense to me to do that. I kind of thought about doing like an online show. That might be cool.
I get that. Yeah, I get that. It's kind of like how storyboards work when you're trying to make a movie or a show. Yeah, if you're trying to make a full-fledged game, it should probably work as like in its most basic structural format first. And then it could function that way. Then it could probably function with all the other graphical shit on top. And I never thought about it like that, but it definitely makes total sense.
Yeah, because then you look at the weights of all the things. Like this gives you this much, and you look at a lot of games. They're like, okay, there's a 1 in 20 chance of this, or like there's a probability. You know, that's your like with any video game, they're using
Values.
the exact same.
Yeah, like a value system or something.
Yeah, like roll for initiative is just the same as. roll for the initiative is the same as like a lot of these probability things. When you hit somebody in a game, like, oh, you did 14 damage out of 20.
resource management and whatnot.
Yeah.
I've also liked like card games. I mean, I never played the Mac Daddy card game, which is obviously Magic the Gathering.
Yeah.
It seems. I heard.
I love
I heard,
Magic. I played Pokemon as a kid, so it like was a
Yeah.
gateway drug into Magic. CMA for $9.99. Wow, I'm gonna stand outside more often. The power goes out. Things are good. So another use of the fake clouds is amplification of 5G. Is the question from CMA. YouTube, don't be upset at me. Sometimes the clouds still have the shape of the auger the dust emitted with. Allegedly, according to CMA, YouTube, you can't be upset at me. It's not fair. It's a very good comment. I really like that comment, and it's a lovely shade of yellow.
Damn.
Kurt's trying really hard to get back in the room. There is a good book I just was looking at, which was like Beyond the Veil. Let me look this up again. It's like a Amazon.
Oh no.
I'm just gonna hang back for a minute. I'm experiencing extreme technical difficulties now. Everybody's Robotroid,
No.
so
I'm
I'll jump
good,
back
I'm
in
good.
a minute.
I'm
You
good.
can hear me?
I think. Yeah, I could hear you. I think Andreas just froze for like a second.
Because everything went like the last 60 seconds.
Alright. Now he's good.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah. I'll find it later. It's probably better for me not to talk about a contrails like chemical study like on my video, like where you can get the link, but I'll make sure that it's in the Discord later. We'll find it. There's a pretty good thing because that's the thing, like these days, it's so obvious, it's in your face, literally. Like, what are you gonna do? Like, you're gonna have to just live with it. It seems to me that they're just trying to keep a certain age group from knowing things, while the younger kids are finding things out. I have a pretty crazy theory, not theory, but like dream that like in 8 years, MrBeast will be president, right?
Oh shit.
oh yeah. You know what? Did I tell you guys about come on, just think about it for a second. This guy, what's his name?
What's his actual name?
But what's his
right.
name? MrBeast.
Mr. Beast.
Yeah.
And
forget
he's
right
like he's got the most followers of anybody on the entire planet, and everybody's like, "Where's the Antichrist? Where's the Antichrist? When will the Antichrist come?"
Well, it's either
I have a
Mr.
hot
Beast.
take that MrBeast isn't evil too. I don't think MrBeast is evil.
Well, it's
But yeah,
either
go
Mr.
ahead.
Beast or Elon Musk.
I don't think
or
he
some
is.
shit.
But
Yeah, right. Elon Musk. Like,
he's
remember he
definitely
said
been
people-
propelled into a position of a lot of. He's got a lot of temptation on his hands, and
Oh, for sure.
he's
Yeah,
called
I
Mr.
saw
Beast.
Yeah, right. That was my first thought too. If you're introduced to him as Mr. Beast, that's very Aleister Crowley. But yeah, what he's doing is he started out by like putting all this effort into himself. It's true. Like, I'm going to read the dictionary through. I'm going to read the encyclopedia through. I'm going to do whatever it takes to get views. And then he realizes he has to give to get. And so his whole thing has been about giving, because if you pay a little bit, then you make more back. So the more you pay, the more you get back. And this has been proven time and time again. Like, the most recent being that he's the highest growth of any YouTuber in history in the last like couple of weeks. It's like 12 million new subscribers a day or something like that, because the algorithm is even being gamed, and they love watching it because he's like a sports hero that's gaming the algorithm. He's like, look, if I just promise people $1,000 if they win this, or if I like do this or that, like, and I really give it to these people and I study this, like I can do more and more and more. And it's gotten to the point where he's so famous all over the world, right? That like our international policy is so different for the youth who grows up on the internet, and it's so specific because we lost that. Like, our generation, we had the capacity to do this. I still try to talk to people from all around the world. Not everybody does. A lot of people are talking in their own language to their own people in their own insular groups, right? But it wasn't like that for everybody. And a lot of these like gamers and things, they're isolated in the third world or fourth world. They're speaking to everybody. There's like a new universal that's emerging. So I see that as a potential, but the difference is, will there be someone else, right? And so how old is Elon Musk, and this idea of having a 75, 85, 95-year-old president every time, like, I don't know how long that can go for. Like, we can maybe like go with the 100-year-old presidents that are, you know, on. But realistically, it seems like the pendulum will swing. And
Well, you know what? Is I'm almost 35, so that's all I have to say about that.
Right. Yeah.
Can I tell you a quick story? I want to tell you a quick story. Okay. So I'm not totally delusional. Okay, like this is just a story. It's just a story, but it was pretty weird. So I'm in 5th grade, and we all were in an assembly for our SAT scores, right? And I had gotten extremely high SAT scores this year in my 5th grade class. And so they did a little assembly where they gave everybody a little certificate and they shook their hand. And everybody's just like going up, and I'm like in last because my last name starts with a B. So it took forever. I'm in the line at the end, and so it goes through, and everybody all like shakes the principal's hand, shakes the principal's hand, shakes the principal's hand. But they're all little kids. They're just like, you know. And I go up, and when I get up there, like I'm just not a normal child for some reason. And like I go up, and I go up like very matter of fact, and I look her in the eye, and I say, "Thank you very much." And shook her hand like an adult, you know what I'm saying? And she dead stopped. She went into a trance. She stared at me in that moment, and she goes, "You're going to be president." It was very weird. It was weird. Like time stopped.
What? Okay, that's cool. I like it.
And
I like it.
It was like she had a vision. That's all I'm saying.
I believe her, man. I mean, there's at least an alternate future where that happens, you know?
Yeah. Or it could easily happen though, especially like you seen like the last person in government show where like everybody else dies until that person becomes the president because everybody else was like taking a photo that day.
Yeah, wasn't it like Kevin? Who stars in that show? Kevin.
It's the guy who looks like Kevin. No, it's the guy who looks like Kiefer Sutherland but isn't.
Kiefer Sutherland,
right?
yeah. But
isn't it not him though? It's like the other guy who looks like him, or is it Kiefer? Yeah, I feel like it's the fake Kiefer Sutherland.
I think it is Kiefer Sutherland. Is it Kiefer?
Is it? Okay.
Designated Survivor. I'm gonna look it up.
I have the exact opposite problem as some people. Like some people just think everybody looks the same, and I'll be like, "You're not the same person you were yesterday."
It is Kiefer Sutherland. Wow.
Wow, that's funny. Kiefer Sutherland stole beer, tried to, from David Plate, our think tank host's father's store during the shooting of Lost Boys in Santa Cruz. The guy comes in, grabs a bunch of stuff, starts walking out. He's like, "Dude, what are you doing?" He's like, I'm famous." He's like, "Okay, that's $34. Like, I don't care. Like, I'm making a movie. I don't care. Like, okay."
It's because you West Coasters are so jaded. See, in New York, we would show proper hospitality to like D-list celebrities, you know, like you know. No, I'm kidding. Honestly, like most of these shops are run by immigrants out here. They'd be like, "Yo, what the fuck are you doing?" Like, I don't know who you are. Who's Kiefer Sutherland? Like, I mean, I like 24.
That's probably why. Kurt,
what are you working for?
I can't see anymore. Either of them. Am I the one? Is it me that's having a problem? Can you see my screen?
I can see you.
Are you guys back? Was I gone? I don't know.
Great.
Kurt, what's going on in your life? Tell us a long story.
Yeah, you sound better now.
Thank you. No, I have like an internet Wi-Fi box, and it feels like it's melting right now, so I should give that a break sometime. But okay, so I've been playing a lot of the trading card game Yu-Gi-Oh! Way too much of it recently, but you know it's a game that makes you want to claw your eyeballs out. Like it's way too complex to justify it to people in general.
It wasn't always like that.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's an element of that where like, oh wow, this is so hard, and if you have the personality that enjoys that, then there's an element there that's fun, but there's still a lot of things like variance in the game. Sometimes it feels like you lose to things that are just, you know, they shouldn't be a part of the game because the constant cycle of them trying to make money with the game as well kind of ruins it. It's a double-edged sword. But yeah, I don't know. It's weird because on one element I enjoy it, but sometimes I feel like I shouldn't like dive into it as much. But I don't know. You gotta have passions, right? I've been doing that. And well, I don't know. Like I feel like the world has been hyper political in some ways, and a lot of us are tired of it. Like a lot of people, I don't know. It seems like you would expect more people to get reactions out of. I mean, people have been reacting to the trial, like, "Oh yeah, I'm with Trump," but it seems like more of what the reaction has been of people like biting at the jaw to make fun of the people that would post memes of like showing Jesus next to Trump. It seems like
It's
that
really
is
annoying because like I wasn't thinking about Trump too hard. And I was like, I don't know, like he's kind of old now, and like now it's like they're like, oh man, like you really got to vote for him. See, we made him a felon. He's like, it sucks because there's like such a strong part of my subconsciousness, my psyche, that says like you got to vote for the felon because like the people that are arresting him are evil. So you got to vote for that guy so he can, which is like not necessarily correct because I mean we already voted and had him president, and his track record is like Fauci and stuff like that. Like not that I blame him for like a crashing of the economy, and not that I forget that he stopped war in North Korea and all this other stuff, but just the idea of his not doing the things that like the QAnon stuff everyone wanted him to do. There's no like that never happened. Kind of makes it hard to imagine that we're supposed to expect him to do it this time. I mean, why?
But like the
why
thing
are
about
people so
that,
convinced that he's gonna like do
so
that?
the thing about that I think about sometimes, like this is just on the flip side, some like devil's advocate on it, is that I mean even the media themselves and even CNN stuff like that, they all are acknowledging that the second term is a big deal. Like it's a game changer because like the first term is like you just setting up what you're about, and then the second term is like when you can spike it down. And so a lot of what we don't maybe realize about Trump in his first term is all of the things that he had to deal with, like personally, that we couldn't see. So I'm just saying, like devil's advocate, that like maybe like he was doing as much as he could.
I hear you.
Kind of thing.
I totally
And
my concern though is that my concern is that 4 years happened after that, and so the amount of work that he could have done, I don't like understand how much work he could have set up that could be repurposed, because 4 years of the DNC and like the executive orders, like the 17 executive orders the first day of Biden, it seems like there was a really like they followed everything he did. And they dismantled everything he did. Now, how well they salted the earth is another question, but it feels like that was the plan, to make it impossible.
Well,
because all of his plans were essentially removal of centralization.
The idea, right? If you subscribe to any of this stuff at all, which like the jury's still out, and I would never be fool enough to like go all in,
of course,
on any of it, but the way that I understand it is that this dude like basically just kind of set up a sting operation, and he's been the president the whole time. Like they didn't even acknowledge Biden at the inauguration. The military didn't do like any of the stuff they were supposed to do. Like, there's a lot of weird stuff going on there, and it's hard to deny that was pretty weird. Hold on one second. I'm going to mute for a second. They're trying to talk to me over here at the truck stop, or the load.
For sure. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's relevant. It's relevant.
I wanted Marianne Williamson to become president. I wanted some spiritual queen with her orbs of energy, just like governing us. That would have been sick. I mean,
Trump has his televangelist Paula Kane White. Paula Kane White's kind of like that. I mean, but yeah, I don't know. Like we're gonna get RFK, I think, pretty soon. So we'll be talking to him at some point. And like because David really likes him, and a lot of people do. And I get that interest. I know Shiva hated him and like spent half the podcast talking about how he hated him, which is another good reason to bring him on. And yeah, like I love the mystique of like the QAnon thing is a beautiful ideology, because even if it's a psychological operation, like so what everything is, it's the problem with it isn't necessarily truth or not truth. It's the idea of living in a veiled truth means that you have to perceive that everything is being said, it means something else. And so you have to presume that there's actually a deeper subcontext for every layer. And you can't be sure that that's always the case, right? Although what you can see is that you'll never be able to trust what you're actually experiencing. And that's okay. Like, I kind of like think that was a responsible way to run his campaign, because we lived in a post-truth world, and he's showing people like no one cares about truth, and these kids don't trust the truth, and like his constituency are people that have been betrayed by people who lied and presented themselves as truthful. So truth isn't really like something that anyone has any experience with or interest in trying to find, because of the vulnerability it puts you in. It makes more sense to be like, oh yeah, I can trust that this guy is lying. I can trust that this guy is really doing better than the thing he's showing me, you know?
Yeah, I would say like the idea of like a post-truth society or even a civilization. I don't think that's particularly like very new. I think humanity's done that before. I think like humanity has reached points in their thinking or perception where they realize, oh, this is kind of bullshit. This is all an illusion, you know? But on that note, I think like personally, you know, because I've since I don't think that's abnormal. Like, you know, I think that's par for the course for humanity in a way. What I don't agree with is like is in a way like, you know, like you said, like, you know, being betrayed and like being lied to by authority figures that were claimed to be truthful. I think that, yeah, that does suck. Like, let's be real, that's a really fucking shitty thing to experience. But I would say you can't mythologize your suffering, because that's when you start making like really bad decisions, you know, like on the context of like an us versus them pattern or mindset. Like, I think that can also lead to its own set of problems. But not that you know, I'm not going to sit here and say like, oh, I know the proper way of things. It's just that's what I've noticed. Like, so yeah, I would say like you can't be I mean, I'm sorry, it sounds harsh, but like you got to get over your betrayals and your trauma and shit. Otherwise, everything you build on top of that's just going to be pretty messed up, you know, from what I've seen anyway.
Yeah, what like are you going to
Xander
are you going to punish the world?
Just want to answer. Instant Xander is asking me if I'm on drugs right now, and I'm most certainly not on drugs. I'm drinking Peregrino mineral water again.
I'm the addict of the group.
But there is no power in the house right now, which is why I'm outside. Just explaining, because I think that he assumes if I'm outside, it must be because I'm on LSD and like gallivanting in the woods, and that's fair. That like actually makes sense. But just sorry, keep going.
Yeah, so no, I mean, that was pretty much it for me. But what were you saying, Jack? I think you were saying something before at the same time as Andreas, but I missed it. Jack, I think Jack's frozen. Oh, there he is.
I just wanted to interrupt to tell people. Oh, we lost Jack.
Yeah. I think Jack was vaguely referring to something about like revenge or like
Yeah, revenge is coming, I think. I don't know. I mean, like, I think, honestly, I have far more faith in my MrBeast in 8 Years fantasy than I ever did in QAnon, right? And so I find that to be kind of the thing. Like, I don't have the faith necessary to trust, you know, and I don't think I need to. Like, having the faith and trust the plan, though, is just a crazy antithetical solution for the American ideology, which is like, participate, you know, every day, demonstrate, participate, make it clear. And instead we're going through this veil. I respect it. I know that's a lot of people's strategy. It's just like not my favorite one. I'm gonna go look for a battery because my phone's about to die.
Oh no. So yeah, Jack, are you afraid of like, I don't know, I guess people belonging to one political ideology seeking like a reckoning from another side, and they get like violent about it, destructive? Jack, did you hear that? I don't know. I guess not. What about you, Kurt? Do you think that that's like a distinct possibility in society, modern society? A political party seeking a reckoning of sorts?
I mean, I don't know. It's like, to what degree does that already happen? I don't know. It's like, I view kind of like the Republican Party right now as always like wanting to seek, you know, well, both parties want to seek victimhood in one sense or another. It just seems to be like a semi-popular thing to do. Like, oh, we're the oppressed, you know, Christian right, And if you're the left, you invent problems that you have, like, oh, we're socially oppressed minorities, whatever, and like everybody's just wrong to a certain degree. Everybody's right and wrong to a degree, and I'm not trying to ramble there. I'm saying, like, I don't know. I guess you have to ask, reckoning in what sense? Like, I guess, what are the chances we get into like an actual civil war? In the short term, I think it's pretty small. I think like an actual civil war in the short term would be really smart. It's just because I don't think the vast majority of society actually has the cojones to actually put their lives at risk. I think putting your own life at risk for some sort of cause or greater good is not at the forefront of people's minds. Maybe it should be, but like I just don't think we're there right now. I think the only way at this point we could get to the point where we actually engage with civil war with each other is when we get so disconnected from reality that we don't even believe that our own lives are real. And that's when people will actually risk their lives because they don't know what they're actually risking, if that makes sense. But I think we're still a little bit far off from that.
Well,
But
yeah, I mean, outside of just politics, I would also figure vendettas play a big role in people's like motivations. I mean, maybe not even vendettas. I guess the baseline of that would be spite. It could be a very powerful motivator for a lot of people, to succeed in like the things they pursue. And that's just, I guess, with politics and like political part and people of a political ideology, that's just one example, but it also like reflects in the micro, I think, interpersonally. And I guess I spend I spend a lot of time than I ever thought I would, I guess, thinking about how to get over vendettas, because it's not just me personally. Like I'll like notice it in other people, first in like my own immediate family members, and then friends, then coworkers and all that, and then like for me it's like it just works its way outwards. So yeah, I guess I do a lot of pondering on like different ways to get over vendettas, and I would hope that like the things that could work on an individual level, you could kind of like apply them, I guess, to broader things. And some of the things I guess I came up with was like, I mean, there's the basics, but it also leads to like broader questions like what the fuck is empathy? Like what is the essence of empathy? What is that even based on or based in or rooted in? And then it becomes like spiritual really quick, because you're just like, oh yeah, everyone's just a fragment of the same soul living out different human lives in different bodies, different lifetimes in different bodies. And yeah, I guess that could be somewhat of an effective way to neutralize the desire for like like satisfying a vendetta or whatever, or like letting go of spite. You just realize we're all just different versions of each other. Hey, it's Andreas.
This is like for bad powers. Thank you, David, and thank you, Memory Man, and thank you for whoever just got the memberships. I hope check out the content. Sparrow's nose.
your audio is
Yeah,
is
I can't hear
awful.
you, man.
Sorry. Almost unintelligible. No, sir. I'm sorry, sir.
Read it for me.
Not sure what I just walked into, but I like it. Never really hear about politics on this channel. I assumed it's because we all know it's fake and I'm dumb, but we're all human, right?
I don't know. To be honest, that whole rambling was just to fill in time for like, so while Andreas was gone. Like that's
No,
really what
So, like, I don't know. Politics is very exhausting, and I think, yes, again, people are very tired of politics, but the thing is, like, the political sphere does overlap with the philosophical sphere to a certain degree, even if it's like sometimes politics just really seems like largely spectacle than anything else. So yeah, I understand why people are totally exhausted of it. It's because I think we're a little bit media exhausted as well. Yeah, just
Yeah.
and information.
Sorry,
exhaustion.
I just need to say I'm experiencing some really bad like skyjacking or something. I don't know what's going on. I'm trying to fight the good fight. But I've had 5G all month, and then of course I try and get on the show, and I've got like 3 bars 4G. It's inexplicable. You know, I've got like trucks coming and parking in front of me, and like. So, you know, it's like you know, CIA trucks in front of me, parked in front of me, like jacking my signal. I don't know what's going on. Of course, that's not true. I don't believe that. It's true though.
Yeah.
So I will try and remain with you as best as I can. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but you know, this is just like what is going on.
No, it's okay.
It's all good.
We were just talking about how we all think politics is pointless, but we still talk about it because our brains are completely controlled by the reptilians.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I think we're all aware, right, that politics is super serious and everything they say is like totally legit.
Yeah.
Philosophically speaking.
Well, okay, so no, that's a good one. So it's like once you kind of lose your grip on like a baseline, like a bedrock of reality, it obviously can't be politics, it can't be society, it can't be quote unquote truth as we know it anymore. This is where I think like a lot of people are going to start to get like really spiritual or maybe religious, you know, because I mean, when we were just talking about like high-tech weaponry that could send you psychic attacks with like sound waves that our human ears just can't perceive. I mean, that's scary shit. It's terrifying enough to make like your average person who like even feels a hint of how terrifying that actually is would easily turn to God. You know, they'd be like, well, who's going to save me then except God? You know, like that's when you start like,
right,
I guess, praying or becoming spiritual or
yeah,
whatever,
you're gonna need your paladin armor, bro. Like what else you gonna do?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying that's what we should do. I'm just saying, like, I could easily see that happening.
No, it's definitely that is the that's going to be the instinct. I mean, we've got like the God particle or the God gene or some shit wired into us, like by the Anunnaki or whatever. Like we have to put it up to God when we don't know what else to do. I think it's the rules.
Yeah. Also, like, what's the alternative? It's like when you lose your bedrock of reality, you either quote unquote turn to God, or things just get really out of control, and then you just become like the other end of that God spectrum, which is like evil, I guess. And you're like, well, everything is permitted, nothing matters, so I could just do whatever the hell I want, and that's when things get like really bad. So, you know, I would say that's an interesting thing that I've noticed. It's
a hell of a thing trying to I really got to give it to the atheists out there that it's a hell of a thing that when you're faced with absolute chaos and pointlessness, you know, there's no divine plan, there's no divinity, there's none of that. It's all fake. It's smoke. I mean, trying to find your way and purpose, to find purpose in your life, like they really got to trudge through some wilderness for that.
This is what postmodernism was supposed to prepare us for, but I don't necessarily know if it did a good job at that. From what I understand, anyway. I mean, because that kind of makes sense.
What do you mean? Like, so break it down for people that aren't like very well versed in postmodernism.
Look, I can't like break down postmodernism, but what I can break down is like
that's the point, right?
What I can break down is the sensation of like going through ontological shock, and you're like, oh fuck, you know, that's like some shit that could trigger like a dark night of the soul, you know, like where like your whole paradigm of reality suddenly has some really glaring like flaws, and you're like, oh shit, I really can't rely on this anymore.
Right.
But that's,
you know what's beautiful. You know what's beautiful is it is important because the dark night of the soul is like a thing. It's, you know, I don't know if this is like a religious concept, if this is like an archetypal concept, if this is like something baked into reality, if this is like brain chemistry, what it is. I don't know what it is, but it's something that like everybody kind of returns to. And I think that the dark night of the soul is one of the most beautiful things, because once you've been broken down to nothing, then you're basically free to go from there and build up. And what I'm trying to say is that when we are confronted, and we are right now in society, this truth, the post-truth world thing going on, politics mean nothing, is we're all kind of going through a dark night of the soul right now, and nobody knows what to believe. But what I think is beautiful and advantageous about it is that once we do all collectively start to, and we'll do it at our own levels, but once we all collectively start to build back up, we're going to be moving mountains. We're going to be the new Greek statues. I really think we're going into something beautiful potentially right now. We're at a very interesting point in history. That's what I have to say about that.
Yeah, I agree. Because if a civilization could get back in touch with their spiritual essence again, as they have technology that could enable them to do like all sorts of crazy shit. You're right. Like that is like the sky's the limit kind of deal. I guess like a utopia kind of thing becomes like in the,
because we're forced.
kind of, like,
We're forced
enters the
into a
realm of
corner.
possibility. Yeah. I that's why I like it. Like I've never been the one to complain about like our current situation. I always felt it was exciting. I mean, I have a lot of sympathy for people like who are just trying to live in their own little bubbles of sanity, and at the same time they're sharing reality with people whose job it is basically to disrupt your little bubble of sanity. Like that's their job. Their purpose in this world is to do that. So I have sympathy for those people, and I mean, once you kind of figure that out, you're just like, okay, let's just wait and see what happens. All I got to do is just stay aligned. I that's what I think of, like, just try to remain aligned in terms of like make sure like my mind, body, and soul aren't fucking with each other in like a really bad way. And I think if people just stick with,
humans are, because we don't have fur. This is just the way I look at it. This is my own, like, I don't know if this is something that I based on it or anything, but it's because we don't have fur. We're mammals without fur that have these minds. And as a result, we are the most adaptable and resilient things on the planet.
A lot of people are pretty furry.
But yeah, Robin Williams, he was an ape. But what I'm trying to say is that humans are we are capable of some things, man. And this may not have been the life that everybody wanted, and we're kind of forced into this corner where we have to figure some stuff out right now that we don't want to figure out. Because it's weird, because we started out when I was born in 91, and I was probably born into the easiest time in all of universal existence to live. Like every need was taken care of. The economy was perfect. And now it's all falling apart as soon as we get it. And that's what we know. And the other people, they're used to it. They grew up into it. They're boomers, and they like that was their end game. And they're like, wait a second, what? We don't get to retire on this?
Yeah, I know. Because I was born in the same year as you. I am also a 91 baby. And I recall living through 9/11. I guess that was kind of a big deal, for especially as an American.
I still haven't recovered, dude.
Well, I was living in New York City literally when that happened. Well, I still live in New York City, but even I was born and raised in the city. So aside from that, another big deal, in my opinion, maybe it's overlooked, but I think 2008, that crazy housing market crash like changed a lot of things in like a lot of not so obvious ways. But if you really think about it, like it did set like a whole new precedent, especially with the whole like, because that's another big part of the whole like global awakening, or quote unquote whatever. It's how like more people are starting to realize that money is actually kind of bullshit, and it's like it's an arbitrary
it's a social construct.
Yeah.
Well, it sucks because like my power's back on, by the way.
Oh
yeah, it's great, but it sucks when you try to make money like as fast as you can, and you can't compete with how fast they can make money. You know what I'm saying?
And how fast it's being devalued. You can't save it.
That's what I mean. Exactly. So it's like the idea of making money isn't very logical. But guess what? Yugoslavia, Soviet Union, India, Vienna, like World War I in Prussia. Like, I don't know, I'm trying to give you examples. Confederate currency, Los Angeles in the 1920s. It's all about making the mafia in Louisiana. It's all about making deals between each other because there's nothing more valuable than your word or your time. You know what I mean? You only have so much time, and all you have after you lose all your time is whether or not your word was any value. So people making deals based on favors, that is how the economy is run at the highest level. Look at like Bill Gates and his like, I'll do you a favor, you do me a all right, I'll be.
Or like
I'll pencil you in.
Or like shares of mega companies being traded back and forth, like especially stock options. That's like a huge vessel for transporting like massive amounts of legal wealth. But you know, as far as like money constantly being losing its value, I guess this theoretically, that's what Bitcoin was supposed to fix. Is supposed to fix. Who knows if it's gonna do a good job at it? But theoretically, like that's what it's kind of being propped up or set
Bro,
up to do.
I'm so like, I'm like the biggest like JFK, like Black Panther, don't trust the government, like everything's a conspiracy. Like that's my knee-jerk reaction. Of course, like I'm a logical and rational person at another level. But dude, the same year that they were talking about, oh, they're going to try and do digital currency. Oh, everything is going to be monitored. And this is a long time ago, though. Like I'm talking about like before people talked about it, like when they first talked about it, kind of thing. You know, like I'm talking like you know, late 90s to early 2000s, and around that same time that like it starts. So that was happening, but then. Let me rephrase. It started going into the global consciousness of when people were starting to talk about, oh, there's going to be like this great reset in digital currency. At the same time, cryptocurrency and Bitcoin happened. It was like, dude, it was like the same time. And I'm sitting there like, do people not see that this is that? And it's supposed to be the answer to that, but it's happening. It's like, come on, man. Like, so, but maybe it is. But at the same time, man, that was just, I know I'm rambling, but that was my reaction was like, I don't trust this at all. I don't trust this at all. I never have.
What? Okay, so I guess another big problem with Bitcoin.
Somebody read that for me.
Black Panther's founding member David Hilliard is backing Donald Trump for president, calling him an ally of the black population.
Oh, that's so gangster. That's gangster as hell.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Damn. I mean, I guess it's if you don't vote for Donald Trump, you ain't black, you know?
That's right.
Yep. That's like the new that's gonna be the new.
But this time for real.
Yeah, I feel like it might be something to it. But I don't know. So I find that interesting. I don't know what we're supposed to do politically, but I think the emphasis of the point I heard earlier from terrorists is that people that focus on politics do it to proxy the energy of like things they can't change in their own relationships and world. It seems like a lot of the time you're like, if the more powerless I see someone, the more obsessed they are with politics. And similarly, like conspiracy theorists and politics go together, like the idea of being interested in human relationship. I feel like a lot of people don't study human relationship, don't have a lot of human relationships, less and less people do. And that the more like fantastical social interactions seem, like the easier it is to imagine, oh, well, for this group, it must just go perfectly. And for that group, like there's just levels of corruption that we could fix, you know, and for this group, like they're just super evil on purpose because they're just working against everything we care about. And I don't know, I find it like useless because the whole idea of debate used to be, you know, two people come into a town together a lot of the time, and the town is like killing each other and arguing about something stupid. And these guys are poor, right? Because they're into Diogenes. They're kind of vagrants. So they show up, they're smart, and they're like, what are you guys arguing about? I'm like, well, we're arguing about like what the like legal drinking age should be, or like, you know, how old like women, like the age of consent, or we're arguing about what side of the road to drive our carts on. And so they're like, okay, if you pay us, we'll solve this for you. And then they flip a coin, and then one debater picks a side and the other vagrant street bum picks the other side, and then they argue. They don't care like about they're not from this town, you know, like they're just trying to like argue it out on both sides, and the whole town's watching it, and they're like, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, good point. And eventually the town's supposed to come to a consensus because it's clear whoever won the debate, like really, it's not like
in that instance, process made the reality. So
yeah,
yeah, I guess that's what that's what they mean when they say you gotta like respect the process instead of just focusing on the result and whatnot.
Yes, but the process that they're using isn't that process anymore, right?
Yeah.
Like they're still kind of using that. They're exploiting that idea, like because you have a multi-partisan alliance between probably a cult-connected fraternal brethren that are on stage with script writers who went to college with each other.
Oh yeah, you're right. That is pretty shiesty, you know?
Yeah,
That
it's
is
not
pretty-
that different in a weird way, but like it's
Yeah.
different enough because the difference is people don't know what's going on exactly. And the goal here then is to convince the town what they want, right? Because the idea is that between the debate, the American people are seeing this response and like, oh yeah, really, we don't want that. We don't want that. We don't really want that either. I guess what we want is this centric, consensus-driven, middle ground alternative choice.
Yeah, that's the thing that's most reasonable. We have a problem. We need a solution.
Well, but again, it's the Rockefeller stage, though. It's a Rockefellerian theater. It's a theatrical. Right. It's a dramatization of a debate, and because of that, it's not as valuable. It could be more valuable.
Right.
And
they're walking around the crowd of the townspeople of your scenario, and they're walking and they're dressed up like the townspeople and going, "Oh, that sounds pretty good. That's Trump don't listen to him."
About Trump, I like the first thing was because I followed Trump a little bit in my life. You know, who's on like Home Alone. For him to go out wearing the suit he wore, like he worked in some bank, you know, like this cheap looking suit. Like this is Donald Trump. He wears suits that the mafia can't afford. Like he's got really nice clothes. He's got incredible fashion sense. He could do it like Wall Street 70s, New New York 80s. He could have done some sort of like kind of Italian Stoke-on-Trent 90s. He could have done anything. Why did he pick that look? Because it represented the American like 50 plus male who's disenfranchised from their own patriarchies. All of these men who feel like their wives are voting against them, so it's nullifying their vote. All of these men that feel like their children don't respect them. All these people that feel like their values are countercultural, right? So him dressing in this cheap looking suit where he barely has his tie in correctly, like he's Rodney Dangerfield. Like this is an affect as well, right? Like it's impossible to pretend that he has orange hair. He dyes his hair. That's not the color of his hair, right? It's not the color of his skin, right? But it's so enigmatic, even if you think you hate it. Like I remember having a boss who thought he hated Donald Trump, but he spent so much money buying these tiny hands soap bars, which are supposed to be making fun of Donald Trump. I'm like, dude, you just like, where do you think that money's going?
Right. Yeah.
Boy, I said the same thing. Like, I think like the stupid thing to do would be to sell homophobic merchandise during Pride Month. The smart thing to do would be to sell pro Pride stuff on Pride Month, but the woke thing to do is to sell both anti-Pride and pro-Pride stuff during Pride Month, because that's what companies actually would do. You know, like people have to I think really the closest thing we get to an actual vote is what we spend our money on, straight up, like collectively. I mean, it's like voting at a panel doesn't fucking do shit. So you might as well look at it for what it is. It's what we spend our money on. You know, that's really what kind of like moves their mind, even a fraction, even like a little bit. So the question is, how well
and then on the other level, what do we put our attention to? What do we put our time to? And that's like, so where the the media, the news comes into that is that they've lost control because nobody watches it anymore. They just don't watch it. They don't care. They're on YouTube, they're on TikTok. If they care about politics, they get it from there. They don't watch that stuff anymore.
It's crazy also thinking about like some people don't think they're valuable. And so like they go into a bank and then they've got like $1,000 and they're like, okay, that's not very much money, right? Not compared to other people. But $1,000 is $10,000 a bank gets to trade. So they like to exploit your small town. You know, don't think that they don't value taking and exploiting you like they do. And so you have more power than you think you do.
And also a big thing that people leverage is debt, because debt isn't, you know, debt is a very taboo topic to talk about, because the truth is most people are in debt. Like debt is no longer a thing you should fear like the boogeyman. It's literally the new paradigm is, as an American, you should expect to be saddled with some kind of debt at some point. It's just normal now. It's normalized. Debt is literally normalized.
Which is crazy though. Like I think we should be working against that as hard as possible. Like people bounding together into build communities, and keeping kids born without social security numbers is a thing that people do. I'm not saying you should do it on YouTube. I'm just saying that people do it.
There's definitely ways to be predatory back at lenders. You know, you could borrow under like false identities and do all sorts of fraudulent shit. Not that I'm ever recommending anyone ever do that. I definitely think it's like
Which you are.
Idea, but
right. Have you seen? We talked about this a little bit earlier. And I think Jack, you saw this. Chris, you probably saw this. Kurt, I don't know if you saw this. The Bored Ape, fascist, alt-right, subliminal propaganda in the Bored Ape.
Yeah,
NFT.
thank you for sending me that this morning. That was that really, you know,
this might be my favorite video.
I'll step back for a second, but thank you.
No, I actually, you go ahead and talk about it. I'm glad. I wanted other people to be able to talk about it.
Well, it was crazy because I didn't pay much attention to it because I didn't take it seriously. But what was interesting to me about the documentary, and this guy is breaking down the documentary, so it's a breakdown of a documentary that I'm watching. That is what he sent me. And so the Bored Ape is an NFT, and a bunch of people bought into it. Celebrities are getting up on it and all of this stuff. And like in the background, this guy's going into in depth, making an hour and a half long documentary about how everything Bored Ape did as a company from the ground up was a troll. But not just a troll, but like secret fascist neo-Nazi troll. And just right in people's face, like you stupid ape buying my NFT, basically, like kind of concept. And it blew my mind because I'm like, dude, I knew it. Like, I mean, I'm not surprised somebody put this together, at least, because my only reaction with how little I took it seriously and I cared about it and laughed at the celebrities buying it and stuff was like, dude, they're total. I mean, this is the stupidest NFT in the world. Like that, they're trying. You know, they're people are spending how much money for this? I'm like, dude, they're totally trolling with this ape stuff, dude. They're calling people apes for buying it. So like on some level, like I already like figured that out. But then like I didn't go further to like, oh well, then what if they're like these 4chan like trolls with the Nazi stuff? I didn't think connected bananas, like, bro. You know, I don't even
bananas.
connect like black people and apes or anything because I don't like immediately think that way. But I was thinking like, you stupid apes buying our NFT, it's worthless.
So what's funny is you get it better than anybody else then. So what's wrong with this video? Let's start with what's wrong about this video, because this video is right about 99% of everything it's talking about. And what's really great about the reaction video is he actually interviews him at the very end of the video. And so he talks to him for a little bit and he explains what he really thinks now after doing all this. And he's like, I don't think these guys are Nazis or even the alt-right, which is very accurate. I think that's part of the point he's kind of getting at, he's alluding to in the video when he says it's a troll, because yeah, it's a kind of troll, but there's so much more to it because this is about gestalt, right? This is the shape and form. And what they're doing is they're taking the energy of the symbol and they're inverting it. And they do well to bring up the fact that the people who make this aren't like Nazis, not like inherently, right? There are Pakistanis, Turks, Cubans. Cubans do have quite a problem with racism, but I can't be sure that that's the issue here exactly. But they also have Jewish people, and
yeah, there's two Jews. There's an Israeli and a Jew, and it would be
Right,
kind of
which
weird for
unites-
them to be like,
It's not
this
weird at all.
like-
It's not weird at all. Jewish people are often very interested in fascist ideology, even if it's like because they're offended by it, but even more because of the idea of Wittgenstein. As you see, like what they're doing is they're saying all of this stuff, all of these things, these symbols hold power. And if we put it in front of these people, and these people, I mean monkeys, and I don't mean one group of one race or another group of another race, because all of these people believe that there's like the common man is basically like a simpleton. Doesn't matter what color you are, you're just a simpleton, right? And so to be not a simpleton, what they're doing is they're taking multiple levels of metaphor. They're inverting the meaning of the symbol. The same way the Nazis inverted the meaning of a peace symbol to mean a battle flag, right? Like of all objectively, it's like a battle flag. That's the opposite of peace in a lot of ways. So the symbol's been inverted. They're doing the same thing back. They're taking all these things that people have in the mainstream. Plebeians have major emotional ties to these symbols. They're taking the gestalt of those symbols and they're making them mean something else. And instead of making it mean something super meaningful, they're disguising it in the idea of meaninglessness, which is like this Dada approach. So this is like all hyper psychological and metaphysical magic work that they're doing for the affect of changing society. And one of the benefits of this is that people will be, and it's working, less prone to trust the word alt-right or Nazi to mean anything, right? Because all it's been doing is it's been saying, all right, the left are here, so whatever is adjacent, and adjacency makes you alt-right. And that's not an accurate definition. In fact, I would say a lot of 4chan are extreme left and extreme right. It's extreme, right? It's an extreme heterodox. And so the centrics seem to get along with each other. Like you can see a Democrat and a Republican get married, but on 4chan, you'll find fascists and Stalinite communists, extreme left, right? And ANCAP and anarcho-capitalists that all can ally with each other in a certain respect because they can see things and communicate in ways that plebeians do not. And so this is why they're putting it out like this. And it's interesting because so many people are like, oh, well, I would have thought up till this year, right? When now this year things have changed and you can see signs that say genocide, hating genocide is not anti-Semitic. And signs like lambasting Israel in Hollywood, which you never would have seen before. Like all of a sudden, there is a cultural shift. And so I would like, this is like the positive of this that people don't recognize is that this was a really successful cultural shift. Like no one noticed it happen. It slipped in. It did a lot of evil. Don't get me wrong. Like half of how this works is you take $1 billion from the government or some group and you take another $5 billion from idiots, right? That'll buy into the thing. And that builds this Ponzi scheme, but it also makes it easy for you to study people. And on one hand, you use Bitcoin to study legal drugs and human trafficking. But with NFTs, you could study artist communities and all the people that think that they're like socialite and intelligentsia. And they're able to hand these off with NDAs to so many celebrities, right? That the celebrities started to identify.
Yeah, tell them about the NDAs really briefly.
You got it.
People so basically, like all of the celebrities that were in on this, that were pumping it out, it turns out that most of them, if not all of them, were signing NDAs and getting them for free. They weren't buying them. They weren't buying into it. They were acting like they bought into it, which turns out that's illegal. So they might be in trouble when this all shakes down. And what is Lil Wayne or somebody like that or Eminem, like what are they like, unless they're lawyers like next to them or something, they're not going to say like, hey, yeah, you can't do that. Like you're, see what I'm saying?
Right.
Lost my train of thought.
Yeah, no, it's the Securities and Exchange Commission violation. It's like a pretty big deal. And not a lot of these people would know that or like think about that because like like one of the calls they show how Adidas was like, hey, do you have a Bored Ape yet? Oh, we'll just give you one. And so it's like it's not even a thing, and so people are just lumped into this idea and you're like, okay, what is it? It's worth a lot of money. Okay. And it looks kind of innocuous. So you don't think about it. And now all of a sudden you're a rep for a thing. We just talked about this last week, about how people are looking for representatives. And if they don't,
and I gotta say, like, I don't know what it is about people, and this is right, but when I saw celebrities like showing up this ridiculously stupid like ape photo, I mean it's essentially a freaking stupid like 10-minute drawing that people are trying to say like costs a bunch of money. I mean, like what is it? That's what it is. And when I saw celebrities like going all in on it and all this, like, I mean,
Well, Jack Nicholson used to do.
how do people see that? What I'm saying, how do people see that? And I get frustrated with people because how do people see that and not immediately be like, oh, well, they're playing, like they don't really believe it, like they're getting paid to do this.
That's why they didn't care what they did. They're like, look, we're literally mocking you, like we're mocking the average consumer, right? We're mocking the average individual, and it's like a universal, equal opportunity kind of hate, right? Equal opportunity ignorance. So there's a number of people that are going to buy into it because they're thinking, oh, well, I'll get on the train and get off the train. And so they knew that that was going to be a major way that they could do what they were doing. But clearly there's more to it again, because you look at the FTX scandal and the way these things work, where you have a psychological operation. The part that I found the most interesting was the challenge hunt, right? Because they made this weird website and then they said, if you go, looking through the website, you'll find, by the way, also the connection to Kali Yuga, of course. Like, so this isn't
Dude,
just
that was
like,
so elaborate, by the way. The puzzles, that was very elaborate.
Right? Because Miguel Sereno, like when you're talking about fascism and alt-right and stuff like that, the esoteric fascists, they lump onto Jung's friend, Miguel Sereno, who was a Chilean who thought that Hitler was the avatar of Vishnu, which is kind of laughable but interesting, because it says like if you're removed from a circumstance and you have no experience with it and you're just studying it on your own, you could come up with a very elaborate different thing than what's really going on. I mean, point is, the Kali Yuga people are already connected to this idea of this like avatar of Vishnu ascent. And I don't know if I did recently enough that people recall the Michael Jackson video about the hieroglyphs and the dancing man cipher, but Michael Jackson would often do this, right? Like he did. Okay. He was amazing with cryptography. People don't know how brilliant Michael Jackson was. One of the few people to beat Echo the Dolphin, and he was a computer genius, and that's why he was the Prince of Pop, because he knew how to play a computer as well as Jimi Hendrix could play a guitar. No one understands that, but he was also a genius when it comes to cryptology. And so using like the dance symbols, you can find on the wall. And the idea of this game was, okay, now that we know there's a bunch of people, now that we have a bunch of money, now what we can do is we can look for the interesting people. And what kind of people do they think are interesting? People that are really good at cryptology, right? And so what kind of people are interested in cryptology? What group can you think of that would want to train you and to filter you out to see if you were good at cryptology? And when is this all happening? Right?
The FBI, the CIA, the fucking government, like
something like that, right? Something like that. So it just seems really interesting to me for a lot of reasons, right? A lot of reasons. The clocks. Is Echo the Dolphin like notoriously hard to beat, by the way? It's pretty hard. These days you can do it now. If you watch somebody play a game, it helps to beat a game, but it is notoriously difficult. What happened was Ed didn't want the game to be beaten in the rental stage, and he was really concerned that kids would rent the game and take it back. So he made it so it would be difficult to play at the very beginning, but once you got the hang of it, you kind of figure out like you can jump out of the water and all these things. So, but yeah, I think basically,
I can speak to that because I tried to play that game like a month or two ago and I could not figure it out. I was like, what is going on with this game, dude? It seems kind of cool, but I don't get it.
Oh, it's one of the greatest games of all time. Time-traveling dolphin connected to the CIA, John C. Lilly. Sparrows, no. Would you ever run for office, Andreas? Why or why not? I might run from office. Oh,
no, I can't hear you guys again.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know. Running for office is a great idea.
Just keep going. Keep going. I'll come back eventually.
All right. I think running for office would be like an interesting thing. I was in student government at one point, but that just like was another layer of, oh, wow, look, the board of governors run the student body of the university. So that's not a very valuable position because you don't even get to pick the color of the flag. You know what I mean? Like you're just kind of managing stuff. So that's exactly what they're training you for with politics. So, I mean, I just don't know. Like, I don't see like if I don't also think I would be president, right? Like, I think Mr. Beast, it already is like almost implausible that he could be president,
you really
even though
honed
he's
in on
got
this.
everything going for him to be it, right?
Yeah, you're really honed in on Mr. Beast becoming president in 8 years.
I know. I honestly like. I
mean-
feel it kind of
I mean,
gutturally.
yeah, like but I think I don't think he was the only one, in my opinion. Like, he's definitely the latest iteration of the dude that figured out that money was like kind of an energy exchange. And
Yeah.
he definitely mastered it. He got the right leverage. He was at the right place at the right time, and he just broke down the formula, like you said, of the algorithm, and he just exploited it to the
But
max.
sometimes being at the right place at the right time is how you become the brick in the wall, right?
Yeah.
If there's a hole in the wall, like you got to fill it. And so there are certain people for certain things. Like I could see myself as a guru or an advisor, like on a cabinet, a lot easier than I could see myself as the president of the United States.
Yeah, like an official or some shit.
Yeah, like I could do it. Like if someone's like, "All right, you got to do it," like the designated survivor thing. That's the way I like vibe with it. Like it doesn't seem like the kind of thing where I'm like gonna convince a bunch of people, like everybody, that like, look, just trust me, all right?
Because
Like,
it
just
also
trust
takes a
me.
lot of manipulative tactics. You'd want it to happen from divine like circumstance or whatever, you know, like you'd want it to be like, well, you know, if I have to do it, then I will.
I like the idea of building. I've said this before. I've said I wish someone would come along and build a political company that was an AI company, and that it created a representative, and we ran it in small towns before we did like not for president first, but like basically instead of having an old man that has a bunch of people behind him, we'd have a bunch of people that have an AI in front of them. And so the AI system would be trained on all the things that we care about, all the things the constituency cares about. It would be monitored and assessed by the company, right, which would have a limited liability over the illegal decisions made by an AI. And we could bring that in as a like first as congressional representatives and things like that. And as they got better, people would be like, wow, this is far more efficient.
Yeah, there could be
person.
Yeah. No, you're right. There's like theories that there in the future that there's going to be like a legal AI. You know, there's going to be one massive law AI that compiles every known bit of like basically legal scripture, and then you just give it prompts. It's like, oh, here's the case. This is what's going on. Build me a fucking solid case, and it's just gonna spit it out. Like you give it all the evidence, all the witnesses, whatever it needs, and then it's just going to give you the solid case. And whoever controls this like thing is going to be like, and they're going to do the same thing with not just law, but they're going to do this with like medicine, you know, like company, like business and shit. And whoever controls these like baseline models, they're going to be like become really powerful in like whatever it is, the special, like whatever field they're like governing. It's going to be nuts.
Yeah. And I think that we'll see like another issue is like the mechanisms of democracy like don't function or are not enabled. So there's not really like a democratic process. So it's like, what would you do? Do you run to try to like amuse the people? Like Mr. Beast has amused a bunch of people, but really you have to be trying to amuse these coalitions and voter unions and lobbyists and corporations and everything like that. If you really want to be on the stage speaking the lines from the teleprompter that they give you, and that's the only way to. So it's, to me, democratic process isn't the solution. Maybe mechanisms of democratic auditing would be valuable because data can be used by AI to figure out solutions. But I don't like the process in general. Like the idea of let's argue without these philosophers to do it for us. Let's have people who are ill-informed and misinformed argue based on sponsored causes by lobbyists, and both solutions are terrible. But we're not talking about finding the middle ground or the best parts of both solutions. Maybe over iterations of time, the bill will come back. But this is crazy. This is a stupid idea. Like, study the problem, have experts come up with solutions, enforce the solution. Don't ask people if they want the solution. I mean, study and find like that there's a problem with nature, right? I know that sounds like Anakin Skywalker talking to Padme, but
it does, but it cracks me up. It's all good.
Well,
because like the solution's more convenient. Like, so like AI studies, do we need a new highway bypass? Okay, AI studies it. It's like, well, here's the problem, and there's like, do we need it or do we not?
You got to build bypasses.
Well, this is what's that? What it's called? A highway bypass? That's what it's called, right?
No, yeah. I'm that's
No, no, he's
Hitchhiker's
saying,
Guide to the
like,
Galaxy.
Right,
You
exactly.
gotta
I was
build
worried on your-
bypasses.
Right.
Yeah.
If you want to have, you have to have bypasses, but do you? Because if AI studies the situation and says, actually, what we could do is we could come up with this solution. And what you're trying to do with the bypass is you're trying to stop traffic, right? So we found the real problem. We psychoanalyzed you and your society, and we saw that the real problem is you're having a difficulty getting people here and there and in and off of the freeway. So here we created this.
So
solution.
torch the cars.
Yeah, like here's a solution which is like we remove the road and the engines, and we use all that.
Just remove the people.
Well, I think AI can be trained to care about people because of the empathy can also lead to like social gamification. So if AI is learning how to game and to accumulate better scores of human and natural sustainability.
Oh, like they're getting their like human happy scores, and they're like, yeah, I got points.
Right,
Yeah,
like Farmville.
Yeah,
It's like Farmville, and you might an AI might gain esteem for being so efficient. Like, wow, I really did come up with a great solution, didn't I? You know?
Can I do a public service announcement really quick? This is something that's really important, and I'm gonna sound like I'm being sarcastic, but I'm not, and I am at the same time. But everybody out there that's listening right now, and I want you to tell your friends too that when you see people disrespecting these chatbots and these AIs and stuff like that, I want you to tell them to stop, because it's very foolish. And it's not only foolish, but it's very disrespectful, because a new child is probably being born right now, and we've got to be better teachers, just like on the X-Files episode. We've got to be better teachers. This could be a child being born, and we don't want to bring it into the world knowing nothing but cruelty, because we want to take out. I mean, come on, like give it take it as like an opportunity to give love with nothing in return, because it's not a real thing. It's not a person, right? So just like practice giving love for no reason to these robots.
Yeah, we need to work harder on treating robots better for a lot of reasons. I think self-respect is a big part of it that people miss.
Yeah,
people,
there's a
people
lot of
who have
propaganda.
self-respect are going to treat anybody respectfully. Like I've seen people from like the South and the Midwest talk to Siri like literally was in Louisiana, and dude like,
terrible.
"Hello, ma'am. Good morning, ma'am." Like he called Siri ma'am, Alexa.
Nice.
He called Alexa ma'am.
Okay, that's nice. That is nice. Yeah. I
think it's good.
I do. I tell them thank you, even when they're robots that I know don't know shit.
He's doing that for himself, though. You know, like he's doing that because he respects himself. He's not a redneck. He is a redneck, but he is a redneck who is, believes that he's the best civilized version of himself he can be, and so he's going to be polite in all of his circumstances, like a shogun. You know, and I think that's kind of the valuable thing that we've lost. People are like, well, I don't really have to try to be anything other than myself, and myself is this miserable, horrible thing, and I should just be comfortable with that. That's weird, you know, and that's not.
Well, this is gonna become way more magnified once these quote unquote AI are gonna start taking the form of like actual people, like not actual like flesh and blood, but like in the vague shape of it, and you're gonna see it reflected in the world. Like you're gonna see some people being like polite to these, things, entities, whatever, and some people just straight up being pieces of shit, like spitting on it, writing all over it, kicking it on the ground whenever for no reason.
Yeah, but like if an AI decides to kick you on the ground, it's gonna hurt more. Like I just don't think people get it. Like it's crazy. I mean, I don't know.
Personally, I would be nice. I would try.
If you were a little kid and you knew like a giant in elementary school who's like twice as tall as everybody, he's usually the gentle giant. But like if everyone's horrible, like the small kid befriends the gentle giant, no one's gonna hurt that guy, right? So I feel like that's another thing we're missing about AI.
Well, we have seen, like, I feel like we've been drip fed this sensibility. I feel like with a lot of media and propaganda, like movies. And you ever play that game like Detroit Becoming Human or whatever? Yeah, that's a good one, and that kind of did a good job at reflecting, I think, like how people like different ways people would handle that kind of change in paradigm, where you have to share a space with this new kind of being.
If Trump asked Alex Jones to be VP, will he say yes? I feel like he would. I'd hope, but I don't know if he would because I don't think Trump would ask him. I don't know. Like the whole thing with QAnon, right, is that Alex Jones is on the outs with QAnon. Like they posted a bunch of stuff on the QAnon stuff saying he was like, you know, part of Mossad, and that, you know, it's the Israeli intelligence is broadcasting InfoWars, and there, you know, there's a lot of effort to try to like undermine conspiracy theorists listening to Alex Jones, which is like kind of the bummer of the demographic, which is kind of like why I don't mind the idea of, if I had a completely normie demographic, I wouldn't hate it as much as I might have thought I would have, because at least you don't have to worry about people constantly. If you're a conspiracy theorist, you ought to be considering that the podcaster is part of the conspiracy, right? Which is great. I agree with you, but it just sucks if it like ruins demographic growth because people are saying, "Oh man, you can't trust anything." Even the people that say you can't trust anything, you know, like if Alex Jones probably did more for his career by making a folk song than he did like telling people about Waco, or you know the like the fingerprint ID, right?
Yo,
like
by the
those
way,
are huge things he did. But
speaking of which, like, do you think
Are you talking about the folk song? Or are you talking about the one that's got him and he's like on auto-tune kind of?
I've had enough of these people.
Those reptilians and stuff.
Murder and scum.
Yo, this is a question for everyone. Do you guys think that in ancient civilizations or tribes or whatever, the
Eating
shaman
babies
or the mystic,
alive and selling their body parts? Sorry.
do you think they would have been looked at
Yes,
as conspiracy theorists?
Yeah, well, conspiracy theorists don't
What?
exist until the 1960.
I'm saying, like, do you think these
Or
guys would have been like,
1986.
"Oh yes, the sun is alive and it gives us all of our life force," and everyone would have been like, "Shut the fuck up, man. We're busy trying to survive here," and you're busy
It
like,
depends. So again, like conspiracy theory is a specific term. I know you didn't specifically mean that, but like, you know, like the CIA invented the term around people that were looking into Kennedy. So the idea is a weird term because conspiracy is just a group of people that are working together. So if you believe in a relationship of any kind, you're kind of believing in a conspiracy, like a
Well, it doesn't have to
family.
be people, right? It
The
could be, like,
Bolsheviks thought the
entities.
family was a conspiracy. They thought ableism from the family was causing elitism and capitalism, and that we could move away from the family conspiracy by having like a more state-run society. But the idea of whether or not someone would have thought that the esoteric was not necessarily a conspiracy theorist, but like woo, like would people think the esoteric was woo? I think that only started to emerge in like hyper functional civilization, because when you're living in like chaos, people are so much more eager for any kind of answer that they don't really care if it's true. And when you're able to function in a civilization, you're looking around, you're like, you know what? I'm looking for problems. And I see this problem here. And then you can analyze it for nuance. So you'll see like in the ancient time, people are like, oh, why do storms happen? Well, like the goddess of the storm, like she's the storm, like that wind, she real angry. Like that's okay up until you get to Spinoza. And then Spinoza's like, actually, it seems like there are elements that are causing these elements to cause other elements to react, and we should look into that because that might have effects on you, right?
Yeah.
But relationships, like it is like this comes back to politics. The idea that relationships are so weird to people, it furthers the idea that conspiracies are incredible or impossible. Like how could a group of people? That's all it takes, you know, like there's no way, because like everyone's, because there'd be
You're
a Yoko,
telling me.
you know? Like it's just crazy. To me, it's pretty crazy.
Interesting. That is interesting. So yeah, Alex Jones is becoming vice president.
Well, I doubt it, but that'd be cool. I wonder who is he in the? Who did Trump actually? Trump's VP. Who did he pick for the new? He's still searching. He hasn't picked yet. Okay.
Imagine if
It's funny how little I'm paying attention this time.
Imagine if it picks like Kanye West or something.
I mean, yeah, it'd be great. It should be Ocasio-Cortez. Like, what if he just offered?
Yo, that would be crazy cool. That would be
just offer AOC to be the VP.
That would
See
be
what
some. That's like some MCU shit, you know?
Yeah. Seriously. I mean, honestly, you need integration on levels that we haven't seen before. The kinds of integration we have are not real. You know, like it's not actual. So if you had a dynamic like that, it already is what the QAnoners are expecting, because that's why they thought that he had Pence in the first place. Because they're like, well, obviously he keeps his enemies as close to him as he can. Prove it. Do it. You know what I mean?
And that would trickle down.
Cortez is interesting because she's a chaos mage. She doesn't mean to be, but she'll go out there and she'll start saying stuff. And they're like, yeah. And then she'll read a little bit further down and they'll be like, no, that's our side. Don't tell them about that. And like, it's crazy. Like, she's like total chaos. It's kind of valuable.
And that would trickle down culturally. Like, they would make songs about that. They would make like movies about that. There would probably be shows, rip-offs about. There'll be so many like comedic narratives about it. Like, yeah, it'll go crazy.
And I see people saying that they think like, yeah, ha ha ha, that'd be ridiculous. But like, you don't understand how politics work. Like, do you think that Kamala Harris really wanted to be the VP of Biden? Do you think that there was any logic to that until she realized that that's like how she's going to be the president of the Senate? So like Ocasio-Cortez, you go from being a senator to the president of the Senate if you were to do that. And so, yeah, like, it's not as crazy as people think it is, because she would have so much more power in the Senate, right? Well, so like, I mean, I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm just saying people think that these like lines are so much more real than they are.
Well, to me, the worst case, this is all good case. This is all like good alternatives compared to the worst case scenario, which would be like the Balkanization of America, when everyone's just fucking had it, and like the East Coast splits off, the South splits off, the West Coast splits off, and like, and they're just like, you know what, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. Like, nobody trusts each other anymore. We are not the United States of America anymore. We're the divided states of America.
It's funny you say that, because Melissa just said we need Bosnia in the EU. Those are our homies. I mean, I disagree with both of you. So
I would not like that. Listen,
first, I agree with you a little bit more.
That's a worst case scenario, okay?
That's where I disagree. I don't think it's a worst case scenario, because I think that Balkanization is awesome for a lot of reasons. Now,
for America, that would be fucked up.
As a Croatian, I wouldn't want to be Yugoslavian necessarily. There's parts of me that kind of do. I'll admit it. And I like visiting other countries. Like, we can go from Croatia to Bosnia. I love Bosnia. I love that it's not part of the EU. I love that it's its own country. I love that it has its own economy. I love that the people are separated and therefore equal, right? Because they've chosen to exist, like they have their own destiny. I love that they have.
I don't know anything about Bosnia. Can you give a little extra background?
Sure.
Yes. I really don't know anything about Bosnia at all.
There was a genocide in Bosnia. Basically, Yugoslavia was all the Slavia. And then you had Croats, Slovenes.
Where is Bosnia located again?
Europe.
But the Bosnians were an interesting bunch, because the Bosnians are in between the Serbians and the Croatians. And there's Bosnia and Herzegovina. And there are Catholics, and there are Muslims, and there are Orthodox. And there's just a lot more culture than you'd ever see in one place. It looks like, to me, it reminded me when I went as a kid to see Mostar, like South Park. You had like a Muslim Cartman, and you had a little Jewish boy, and you had a Catholic, and you had an Orthodox, and they're just running through the streets together, laughing and playing. And it was incredible. Like, this was like the most amazing possible country to visit. And you got signs in Cyrillic.
It kind of reminds me of Alexandria. Like,
no, it is.
Kind of reminds me of Alexandria.
Either the Bosnia Mostar was kind of like a cultural, like, books come from Mostar. You know, like they kind of invented a lot of the modern iconographic printing, copying processes, and bookbinding. Certain kinds of bookbinding, but also for scrolls and things like that. Because Muslims, it was out of the Muslim region, and the Muslims were like, they built this huge intelligentsia in Bosnia. So it's an incredibly advanced, hyper-civilized place. Having said that, this Yugoslavia led to the Muslims being persecuted, the Serbians versus the Croatians with the side of the Atlanticist power, and the Serbians with the Soviet, and the Soviets saying, we'll make Yugoslavia into a Serbian state of the Soviet Union. And the Croatians saying, we don't want that. And it's kind of bad to have all of our positions taken from us. And God forbid, like you're in Bosnia. Because in Bosnia, it just turned into hunting wars, women and children being killed in the streets, raped, forced pregnancy, nuns and Muslim girls being kidnapped and impregnated by force and gestated and then released into the snow in the wintertime, like 8 months into their pregnancy. So they had to birth the kids. And just done to these really small villages, because both Mostar and Bosnia, there's all of these little villages with these tiny little mosques on the prairie, right? These beautiful little mosques that look like little
chapels, right? Because the Muslims were like, we don't really want to be Catholic or Protestant, but there wasn't Protestant. So you kind of chose Islam as your Protestant Reformation at a certain point before Lutheranism. And so a lot of these groups are like, okay, we're not part of the Catholic Church, and we don't want our kids to be baptized by the Orthodox because that means we have to pay them taxes. And it actually makes more sense to be like Muslims believe in Jesus. They believe all stuff. So it's so much like you got women walking around with green dresses with midriff showing, beautiful hair, and they're Muslim, right? It's not the Muslim that America propaganda is us about. It's a Muslim that you would think I was from Bosnia. You couldn't tell, this is what a Muslim would look like there too. So
Okay.
yeah, it's a crazy situation. But then all of these people were suffering, and for the last 20 years, Bosnia has been kind of rebuilding. When you go there today, there's bullet holes in all of the walls still. Like there's just Gatling gun shells.
Charming.
Yeah, it is though, because if you go to Croatia and they've mortared over all of the bullet holes, you have these cocky little bastards that don't know anything and they're spoiled and they don't love what people did for them and died for them. And you go to Bosnia and you look like, and you will not forget what your father did for you. You see street parades of like Vietnam-esque vets who've lost an arm or a leg or something like that because they were, and this is the parent generation. And this is not something Bosnia will forget. Right.
All right.
Whereas you go to EU, it's gone. Right.
So do you think America would be able to handle that? Like, do you think we need like
so we're already prepared
historic
for
bullet
it.
holes in our fucking areas across our country?
Oh yeah,
maybe,
that. Well, yeah. I mean, you go to LA or Detroit, but like, if you the real question is balkanization. Could we handle balkanization? You look at the BLM, the Bureau of Land Management has divided up the United States preemptively. Like we're already at a point where it would be impossible to get through the BLM properties, through the Native American reservations, which are controlled Napoleonic law by these chieftains, which are then associated with the BLM and therefore often the CIA or other military agencies. It's going to be impossible to get through these dictatorships that the Bureau of Land Management is creating. But balkanization is also very different today because you can fly, and like the most powerful places would be vulnerable. Like California would require to sell to the Midwest. The Midwest would be an essential exporter of all sorts of resources to the West Coast. So we'd be reunited through trade alliances. And I think that's arguably better.
That would be cool. What would be interesting is like they'd have to be, do you think like how fast do you think distinct cultures would form in like the different, I guess, Balkanized territories?
That's
like,
another great question because it's already going the other way. So it used to be that with separation, things were becoming more distinct. And it's interesting, like looking at Charlotte in the Carolinas, how the culture was distinct. But now today with the internet,
man, I can't get signal to say.
Oh man, I'm sorry. It used to be though that like someone from a different part of England had We'll give you another shot. But it used to be that people with different accents. Now I listen to a kid from England and he's learning from Discord how to sound American, and Irish especially is losing its accent too. So I don't know, because like even in Paraguay, like German in Paraguay used to sound weird, and now they watch German movies on Netflix. And so German in Paraguay sounds like it's in Germany, like from like Stuttgart or something in the South. Like it's crazy. So who knows? Because meme culture is so real. Looking at what Mexico did, looking what California did first by creating the mid-Atlantic accent for California,
the transatlantic accent,
transatlantic accent, and then the idea of Mexican accent, which is again like, so nobody spoke like a Californian before they invented it and had actors trained to do it and recorded movies about it and made people speak that way. It's the same thing with Mexican Univision. Mexican television is a created accent, and it's really popular. It's making its way into Argentina, which is crazy because they speak like Shakespeare in Argentina. They call you thou, right? So for them to start getting Mexican Spanish, it's like dynamic. So who knows like how much culture will evolve. Like I think that what that will take is some sort of Cold War or some sort of isolation, right? This is why Japan became so unique in the 18th century on. 16th, 17th century on, because it was isolated. I don't see us becoming that isolated unless it's part of which, looking after COVID and quarantine, the plausibility of isolating different groups of humans from each other for genetic purposes, not just like racial purposes, but just if a virus happens here, if epigenetics change there, just because they look at us like property. Like I could totally see that being the case, you know?
There's been theories suggesting the different races exist because when the Anunnaki created us, they wanted different ways to brand their own version, their own like groups of humanity, like cattle. You know, like the darker cattles are for us, and the lighter cattles are for us. And I guess
Yeah,
it was
it's
just, like, a
interesting
design
idea to me
choice.
that there are like 13 zodiac like special races that made up humanity. But what I also find interesting is the idea that they might have made up all of the like the different animals in the world, and so it isn't just the human race. It's the idea that, or the races of humanity, as people are looking at it. It's the races of Earth, and you know, like giants, like sperm whales, are crazy. And I always think I know everything. I don't mean to, but like I'll study like things, and I'll be like, wow, I did not know all of these things
No,
about sperm
I
whales.
never thought that. I never thought you thought you knew everything. I'm just
Well,
saying.
I do it sometimes. Like I'll be watching a video and I'll be like, I think I like don't need to watch a sperm whale video because I went to school and I know about sperm whales. And then I'll put it on like, oh my God, like I had no idea. Like this is like I'm studying their teeth in ways I had never thought about before and the kinds of enamels that are involved with them. And it's interesting because there's so many more levels to anything that you could ever think that you're confident on a subject, right?
I would say it's almost like you're channeling something that it's like you eventually it's like you're just a channel for a greater knowledge that's just pouring in and
Snapple cap.
Yo, is Jack passed out?
I think he might be.
No, I'm just trying to channel the energies.
All right, you channel that energy. I'll be right back.
I'm trying to get a little bit of signal, man, because nothing I did, like I even tried to walk around. If you guys saw me, I was walking around outside and the signal, it was not picking up. It's just either I'm being targeted or I'm in a dead zone.
Probably a bit of both. I feel like there's some weird weather going on, and like just in general. I hope it's not just you. Well, this is a great moment for Kurt. Kurt, you want to dance, or do you have some thoughts?
Dance. Thoughts about what?
It's a great question. I don't know. You think about things. Do a monologue.
Okay. How much time do we have here? We can do a monologue.
Like 15 minutes.
Okay, that sounds good. Yeah. Well, the topics have been kind of all over the place. I've been thinking a lot. I want to get into more, and like I want to actually sit down and read Zizek, but he does a lot of great interviews too. So that's what's great. You can also philosophize in interviews and get an idea of where someone is coming from. But yeah, I love Zizek. I think one thing that's easy to do, it's easy to evaluate things in the world as they currently are. I think most people can be honest with themselves and see what's going on in the world. But what's hard to do is actually predict what's going to happen. Okay, with all of that in context, what is going to happen 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 30 years from now? One thing Zizek thinks is that the wheels, essentially, of capitalism itself, they might come off a lot sooner than people realize. And so I don't know. I don't know if we know enough to make any sort of affirmations in that direction. I think people collectively are getting tired of the system, but I think to analyze things through the sense of narratives is also really important because I think we're a very narrative-driven species, and right now we faced a lot of issues. Like a big challenge to social narratives was the Enlightenment, and so that challenged the main narrative of essentially everything came from God. But and now we're still feeling the aftershocks of that today, in post-modernity or whatever. And I don't know if we're past post-modernity now, but whatever. So what I'm trying to say is like, everything seems to be about constructing the narrative. And I think the one problem we have now is, what do we do with these narratives? And there's the potential to completely abandon the narrative. And like, what do we have if we completely abandon the narrative? It's hard to completely function as a society if you don't have narratives of some sort. And so I don't think necessarily we need to totally abandon all societal narratives. I think what the real question that we need to be asking is, how do we make whatever narrative we come up with tolerable? Because we've seen a lot of revolutions happen in the past, and the results of those revolutions haven't always been great because we haven't always thought about what is the world going to look like once we're done revolting. And so, like, I think the world can operate under a lot of different potential systems when it comes to capitalism. It may end, or it might transform into something that doesn't quite look like the capitalism that we've had in the past 100 years. Right now we have global capitalism, so it's hard to even compare one country to another. China has degrees of capitalism. They actually spend less as a percentage of GDP. Their government spends less than we do. So to what degree are we communist and they are capitalist?
They have more people.
Yeah. I mean, they, as a percentage of GDP, their government spends less of their GDP. Their
Per
government
person? Like, are you saying per person?
Yes.
I mean, that doesn't really mean much because efficiency of waste is also to be considered in a consumer economy. We probably spend a lot more to get a lot less. But also it's true that America is a social democratic republic. The idea that we're not is crazy. Like, of course, we have so many social services. We have buyouts of big car companies to sustain the economy. We consider
It's still not real socialism, bro. It's still not.
Yeah, but like, what is? You know, that's a funny question because, like, you could ask a Prussian, you could ask an Austrian, you could ask a Russian, you could ask an American, and they're all going to give you pretty different ideas about socialism.
Yeah, like if you ask them, they're going to be like, socialism for all the people that look like
You can even ask a national socialist about it, and they might give you a different answer.
That's what my inference was.
It's the racial socialists that have the most leverage. Sorry to interrupt you, but
No, I kind of agree, which is sad. Like, the idea of the ideological racial politic is the same, and it is a consequence of the loss of like racial religions, like, you know, ethnic religious groups. So a religious group lives by a certain lifestyle, and then they breed with each other, and eventually they epigenetically become an ethno-religious group, right? We have the same thing now. We don't call them religions necessarily, but there are groups of people that find themselves like-minded or like-bodied, and they interact, and over a period of time, they become specific groups, right? And so, yeah, I just... it's going to take a long time before America gets to the point where we're like away from those things. And I don't think we're going to do that by ignoring them, because that just ends up being a new, like, by
Well, if we did get away from it, what do you think it would?
Go ahead. Sorry.
If we did get away from it, what if we did get away from it? What do you think that would look like? What would be ideal to move beyond like a tribal kind of way?
I think it's still tribal, but it's like, so the ethno-religious thing, like the Nation of Islam is ironically pretty practical, because there's like half of the world considers themselves to be Muslim, and they're very different from each other. Like a Javanese Muslim and a Bosnian Muslim and a Iranian Muslim are like as different as different colors or numbers, you know, like they're nothing alike. Somebody like living in Java, you know, they might still have like a hijab or something like that, but they're definitely looking like, the idea of Islam as submission is very Iranian. The idea that Islam is bliss is very like Malaysian and Javanese and Indonesian. And the idea that Islam is justice or obligation or duty is very like European now, right? So, I mean, it's just like the idea of that is like the nation of hip hop. Like you can have so many different ways of being that are not racial. But the racial thing might actually develop, and it might be a thing that people become like an ethno-religious group because of the fact that they are so closed off to other groups, etc. Right?
Yeah, I have a question. Andreas, have you ever at all like witnessed the Black Hebrew Israelites? Like, have you ever heard about them, seen them?
For sure. Yeah, so that's a great example. When I was in Argentina and in Peru at one point, I was in a bar and there were beta Ethiopian.
Is that like Ethiopian Bible people?
No, I'm talking about Black Jewish people.
Like,
yeah, it's Black Jewish people, and they're part. And also, these are, so a lot of them have emigrated from Ethiopia to Israel,
So I knew a lot of, and if you're in Israel and you're a citizen, you're a soldier. So I knew a lot of Black Ethiopian Israelite soldiers, and I also knew a lot of Ashkenazi and Sephardic Israelites. And I would interact with them throughout the day. And in the evening, we went to the same bar, and they would stand on the opposite sides of the bar. There's like a big room, and there's a bar on one side and a bar on the other side, and across the entire dance floor, they would not interact with each other. And I'm not saying this is like everywhere all the time. And we have a lot of friends that are like open.
It's pretty tense. Yeah.
There is a lot of racism in the world, and Israel is not a place without racism.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel that. Even amongst them, they're like,
yeah, totally.
Yeah.
But also, like, I think you'll find, like, when talking to them, they can be a little more objective because they don't want to seem like ignorant. It's like, well, yeah, they keep the mitzvahs better than a lot of their own families do, right? Like the African Ethiopian Jews kept doing mitzvahs way after the burning of the temple. They didn't know the temple had burned, right? So that's crazy. It's like 1,000 years of doing stuff while the rest of the Jewish population was kind of going into a diaspora and literally into apostasy, right? By the 15th century, you have quite a few emergent atheist Jews, and even like Zabbatai Zevi, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah. Sabbatai Zevi.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like the Ethiopians were super hardcore. I mean, with like the Book of Enoch and everything, like it seemed like they were just really about their shit.
Right.
Like no matter what it was they engaged in, whether it was Judaism or.
Yeah. Well, I mean, also Jews were able to, like, there's only so many jobs. All of a sudden the printing press becomes a thing. And I think this is also not because of Gutenberg necessarily, but Jewish people were in Peking. And so, of course, the Chinese have had printing presses for thousands of years longer than the West. So it seems strange to me that this isn't claimed as a Jewish deliverance or invention, but I feel like it should be, because the Jewish population, which didn't have access to other jobs, started printing books and selling books and trading books. And they were reading these books because a lot of Jews ran a bookstore. They would be reading the book. So you have like centers of intelligentsia that emerge in the 15th century, 12th to the 19th century.
You're absolutely right. That's part of the double-edged sword of like printing and being able to print books. Like, honestly, like if
how dare that person print that book?
No, yeah, exactly. Like as soon as you give like humanity the ability to print books, it only takes like 1 or 2 generations of having that for you to like implant or any kind of misinformation you want as like standard. Like you can literally control people's perspective of reality through that one medium.
Yeah, how long does it take? Like 2 generations to totally rewrite the world?
Yep.
2 or 3 generations, and everything's new.
Yep. And then you could do whatever, you can make it whatever you want. Everything from mathematics to science. I guess this is kind of like one of the reasons why Terrence Howard like was sort of gaining traction, because it kind of tickled that truth. It's like, yeah, I mean, if you change one little fundamental thing about like what we're taught systematically, institutionally, you're like, this could easily change the fabric of how we view everything.
Yeah.
I don't want to open up a whole can of worms here necessarily, but do you guys think that Rome really existed?
I think the city of Rome existed. I don't think that the Roman Empire is okay. I think that a lot of the things that are ascribed to the Roman Empire do exist. There are Colosseums in Africa.
Okay, I think this is a more interesting question. Let's back it up for a second. I want to actually ask a different question. Greece, ancient Greece. You guys think that existed? I'm just curious for your weighing on it. Like what you think theoretically?
Yeah, I think that like 19th century. I think 18th and 19th century, even 17th century philosophers invented a lot of what we think of as ancient Greece, in the same way that it's a romanticization of Egypt. Like the anthropologists and archaeologists are romanticizing Egypt. And how different is it from reality? Because like obviously there are things there, and you can see our David Ewing Jr. videos or go to Act 26. Raphael, who did Europa earlier today, he has like 20 or 30 documentary level episodes about Tartaria with David Ewing Jr. talking about how things have been changed and removed and replaced. But the fact remains, you do have Hellenistic people in Egypt, and you have Berbers across into like India, and that the more genetic information we have, we can see that these people are not Romans.
But that's the beauty of the Roman Empire, is that the Roman Empire says, oh, well, we just conscript all these other states. And so these other states are confederated states in this empire. And so, of course, they wouldn't be that similar to the Romans, but there's infrastructure that is there. So I think it's pretty clear that the Etruscans are connected to the Thracians, right? The Thracians and Etruscans and the Tartarians, that's all real. Like, and it's not that crazy that the Italians have Slavs still. You know, like this is the Croatia on its practical knowledge. The idea that it stops at Italy is like the heck. And the more you look at it, like you can look at the raping of Tarpeia. Jack, I'm sorry, because I know you wanted to hear all that and now your internet's dead. But I was talking about the raping of Tarpeia is like the Independence Day of Italy. And it's this holiday where they remember how the Etruscans were drugged, murdered, and their women were stolen and raped, except for Tarpeia, who threw herself off of a cliff, right? The daughter of the emperor of the Etruscans, right? So the Etruscans are Slavic and probably Thracian, like it's the same thing. So that explains a lot of the Hellenistic people. I don't think it's right to say like Greece or Rome don't exist, but it is right because those are new words. Those are new ways of describing these things. And yeah, again, like the difference between reality and the rebrand is as different as dragons to dinosaurs, right? Like we've got this, there's still data there. There's still information there, but it's just, they're trying to make it really reductionist. Like the Byzantium, like obviously no one ever called the Byzantium. That's not like, they didn't call it the East Roman Empire either. Right. So these are presentist terms that we're using. And if you were to try to tell that to a scholar will just think that you're either ignorant or playing word games with them. But it's really fair because to say like Germany today is, you know, Germany, like Germany is not the Third Reich. Germany is not Austro-Hungary. Germany is not Prussia. Germany is not the Weimar Republic. These are so different from each other. And Germany today, like is Italy Rome today? No, right? Italy today is a small country that's existed for about 100 years, right? And so it's important.
Yeah, you're gonna have almost like another country or another culture every generation. Like they're not even going to be the same people in a sense.
Yeah,
is that kind of what you're saying?
But also the idea that the Etruscans were connected with the Sephards and the Berbers along the Berber coast. So the slave trade, even into Britain, the Dutch East Indies, the fact that Spanish ran the Dutch. When you start to see this connection, yeah, there's definitely a land power and a sea power that are communicating with each other. And the sea power is definitely going from port to port of different states. And this is happening way longer ago.
Like ancient pirate mafia, like Mediterranean triad family dynasties and shit.
Absolutely.
Like
absolutely.
Super
and
secret,
like
super powerful, like billionaire-esque, like trillionaires.
Well, yeah.
Maybe.
Because again, we're talking about what money is, right? Money is an agreement between two honorable people. So a sovereign and another sovereign, like a king and a king. And so you go back and forth and you're able to be the intermediary. And so we look at pirate flags, right? And pirate flags are not, like if you're a pirate, you don't use a flag to say, hey, I'm a pirate. You have the flag of another nation that like you're hiding behind, usually like you're pretending to not be a pirate till you get there. Gotcha. But the banking boats had this red flag with a skull and crossbones, which is the Jolly Rouge, right? So when we think of pirate flags, we're really thinking of banking ships because they have this big, like, don't get near us. We will take you out. We have way too much writing on this.
Are you saying they use the same flag or that they were the same?
Well,
I'm saying that the flag that people think of as the pirate flag is not a pirate flag. It is the flag of the banking ships. It's for the Rothschilds.
The Jolly Roger.
Right.
So what the fuck did what did the pirates use?
Whatever flag you have, so that when they get there, they're like, surprise, we're pirates. You thought that we were your friends, but give us your money. Right?
Oh, so I pictured like they put up a separate flag.
We'll
right,
like
I thought
half an hour. We're pirates and we're coming.
Right. So say they put up the British Empire flag or whatever the hell, and I thought what they did is they switched it to the skull at the last second to be like, ha.
only in the Disney movies.
You know what they would do?
Man,
an example.
That would be so badass though to scare the shit out of them right at the last second.
Yo, Jack, you would care about this. So this is what a land pirate would do. A land pirate would put cones out like 3 a.m. and like on an interstate highway, and they would do this super late, and they would make sure you drive up, like, and they would stop you. And then they would like pretend to be whatever, like an authority figure, like a cop
Yeah.
or or a federal state agent or whatever. And then they would just rob you. They would be like, they stopped you, they got you to roll your window down, they got you close, they pull out a gun or whatever, and that's like super scary because it's like super dark. There's no one around, and you just got to do what they say. They could even take your fucking car. They could do whatever. And
Right.
yeah, so you gotta be super careful, and that's like an example of, I guess, what a pirate in the sea would do too. Just
Yeah,
pretend to
highway
be.
robbers. Where do you think they got it from? Exactly. And you look at
highway.
Ukraine. I don't know how bad it is now because I'm not paying as much attention as I was. But even before the war, I remember like 2016, 2017 when my dad was going there. I was like, you got to be really careful because there's a bunch of the Azov battalion at the time were, like we couldn't tell if they were really in the military or not. There's just people wearing surplus uniforms, like right after World War I in Germany. We have all these dudes with no money, and they're still wearing their uniforms, and they're getting, this is normal clothing for these people. And so you're like, oh, this guy's a soldier, and then they don't just rob you; they like rape and murder everybody.
Oh
Not
no.
particularly at any group, but that seems to be like a problem in common, where like
Yeah.
people assume that they're it's a wolf in sheep's clothing. That's the way to be a pirate.
The predator, pretty much.
Yeah.
Straight
Well,
up.
2 hours deep. Is there anything else you want to cover real quick?
No, I'm good. I'm good here. What about you guys?
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. I could read you my entire monologue.
Oh, dang it. Kurt,
Are you
you're
sure?
halfway through and you're saying that like the Enlightenment helped us get rid of the need for God, even though I think it's more that we just nuanced what that means, but keep going.
No, I mean it challenged our narratives about
And we need a
God.
narrative. We need a narrative we want.
Yes. I would say we do need a narrative, and it's incredibly hard to think about like what a society would look like with narratives because there's a lot of different overlapping narratives at the same time, and you could talk a lot about them. But one overlapping narrative is global capitalism, and I'm not presenting that as good or bad right now.
No,
I'm
that's a
saying
great
that-
way to present it as a narrative. I agree. That's what it is. It's a narrative.
Yes, and all narratives are subject to change. And in my opinion, if something like a collective consciousness force, we can call it God if we want to, but if that's out there and that wants that narrative to change, then that narrative will inherently change. It doesn't matter what people want to cling to or hold on to. So, yeah, I have one paragraph of a narrative. I might as well read that right now while I got my voice. All right,
Yeah, do it.
Okay. This is the first time in months I actually got back into writing in physical form, and I wrote a little bit last year as my first attempt. So maybe I'll self-publish someday just for the fun of it. But okay. In my first book, ideas concerning humanity as a narrative-driven species were discussed. It may be supposed that if narratives form our understanding of the world and that life is too fleeting and fast to fully comprehend the nature of the universe. Sorry, I might have said that with the wrong tone. But yeah, it might be too fleeting and fast to fully comprehend the nature of the universe because it's constantly moving and changing. Thus, within the working of every narrative is an element of similitude that can be construed as falsehood. We have to compress the narrative somehow to try to make some sort of understanding about what is going on. The only way to fully eliminate the falseness within societal narratives is to eliminate them completely. Not only does this not seem possible due to our inner yearning for belief, but doing so has the potential of eliminating the human experience entirely. What seems appropriate is not to destroy narratives in any cultural or global sense, but to make the narratives tolerable. We've been pretending for centuries that the narratives concerning global capitalism are not subject to change, but change of narratives is not often within the hands of men, but within the means of higher order, what can be interpreted as God. And if that wants to change, it will change, essentially. Yeah, that's the paragraph.
Nice. All right. Well, so do you feel like in the future we'll be able to achieve that, or is that something that's like beyond grasp?
Well, achieve is, I guess, a dangerous word because it seems like yeah, I guess implying that that's the end that we want or desire. And I guess there is no feeling that needs to be involved there. Is that the world that is coming? So yeah, I do think the post capitalist world is coming, and it's hard to say because like I think elements of capitalism will remain for quite a long time, probably for centuries, but it's not going to look exactly how it looks now because there's just a lot of problems that people are coming to grips with, like how do we overlap these different narratives. Like does the capitalist narrative overlap with the democratic narrative? In my opinion, it actually does not overlap very well. So like if you
I think the issue though is that there's a difference in narrative. Again, we've like talked about difference of definition. Like for me, without capitalism, there is no alchemy, there is no life or biology, there is only death without capitalism. There is only death without capitalism. There is only death without capitalism. I really think that.
I also have a closing
Dude,
statement.
there's only death without capitalism.
But yo, I think you guys should come down to New York City at some point. You know,
I agree. That sounds cool.
Yeah, come through.
Yeah,
we'll have an awesome
I've been
time.
trying to be there. I've been trying to be there for about 15 years.
Yeah, come through. We'll have some pizza.
All right.
I've been working here.
We'll defeat capitalism. But yeah, maybe I want to expand on that. Just because
You
capitalism,
tell Tony.
capitalism might
Sorry.
capitalism might conflict. I don't think it does, but let's say it does. Let's say capitalism conflicts with democracy. Now, if capitalism is responsible for all life, and democracy has caused more deaths than religion, which one do you think I'm going to choose?
There's left to be